I started scouting top for the connection in '72, and we'd meet once a week here.
We'll call the July Quorum Court meeting to order. First item on our list is Reverend Glenn. Appreciate you being here, the First Baptist Church of Osceola. He'll give us our invitation. Reverend Glenn.
Thank you very much, Judge Nelson, for the invitation. Thank you for receiving me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Let's pray. God, it is a privilege to pray right here in this setting tonight, and I thank you that I have the ability and the opportunity to do this. Thank you for the kind and gracious invitation. Lord, we pray together and ask together tonight for this meeting for clarity and discernment and wisdom, and thank you for each of the leaders that are in this room that represent the great parts of our county and the good people of our county. They have represented them well. They work hard, and they're here tonight to do good work. I ask for discernment on their behalf, for wisdom and decision-making clarity, especially for the task that this meeting will present, whether large or small. May they have great patience and diligence to see things through and to listen and to respect, and God, to just have an orderly time, that you would bless it, that you would bless their work tonight, that our county would flourish, and that you would be pleased with these things. And we're grateful for our government, and we praise you for it. This is a good gift. Thank you for prayer, and we lift it up in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Glenn. If you remain standing, we'll recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, be seated. Kurt, would you call the roll, please?
Justice Ash.
Here.
Justice Bird.
Here.
Justice Cullom.
Here.
Justice Gleeman. Justice Hepler. Here. Justice Jackson. Here. Justice Lewis.
Here.
Justice Mangat. Here. Justice McClanahan. Here. Justice McDonald.
Here.
Justice White.
Here.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes since we've all been provided with the copy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Peggy, do you have a treasurer's report for us tonight?
I do. Our interest rate on a $100,000 CD for 1 year is 1.25 at Farmers Bank in Wago. That was our highest rate that we got. And our sales tax that we received for June is way up. I think that's the highest rate that we have ever had, at least since we have been the rate, as you can see on your chart.
Wow.
Yes, and what we receive this month will be a little bit less, but it will still be good. So we're doing great as far as sales tax goes. And your fund balances are also attached, and our funds are great.
Any questions for our treasurer? Thank you, Peggy. We'll move on to the committee reports. Justice Ash.
Yes, sir, Judge. Police and Fire Committee met on June the 30th, 2012 at 1:30 at the Annex Building. Our topics of discussion included the Sheriff's Department's radio system, which is at the end of life. They are having trouble getting batteries. They cannot get radios repaired. There was a proposal brought forth by Mr. Reynolds that was at the cost of $1.45 million to replace them. This includes some radios for the not only the Sheriff's Department, but for Fire Department. That was on a national contract. That contract expired in June, so if we decide to do anything with it, they will have to bid it out or find another national contract or state contract to see if we can get the same type of deal. Sheriff's Department gave us an update on cars. I think they said 12 came in that week. They were going to pick them up, and I talked to sheriff later that week. They have picked them all up. They were in the process of getting them striped or putting their logos on, putting their equipment in them, so they should be operational before too long. They had some that were canceled, they may not be able to get because Chrysler is not going to make them. Heat exchanger in their boiler had went out. It's the one that supplied hot water to the jail. So they had to repair it. That was in their budget. They just wanted to let us know that they did. The repair cost was roughly $12,000. Putting a new one in was $21,268. He had the money in his budget, so he went ahead and replaced it. We talked about the voice over IP. That was tabled, or the recabling of the jail was tabled. We're gonna look at putting it first of the year. We learned later in another meeting that, when the doors, we need to recable it quicker than that, because he says it may not continue to work. They asked for a few items, such as some radar units, some PVTs. Apparently, Bigger Steel has called them a couple of times, asked them to come down there and run radar. Slow people down, because they don't have, people just don't pay attention to it. They also asked for some PVTs for blood alcohol testing and some spike strips to hopefully keep it from having to get into high-speed chases, as long as they get flat. Sheriff's Department also having budget this year. They are changing from the block, I believe it is 22's got a block called Model 45. It's a 9mm. Getting hard to find 40 caliber ammunition. So 9mm is plentiful. New Austin County was awarded a courtroom security grant for the Osceola District Court. Wayne Reynolds was handling that, and we should see a appropriation order for $11,500 for they can put up some cameras. I think it allowed for a day or something. I don't remember because we was closing that. Things of that nature.
Any questions for Justice Ash?
One question, in regards to the, radar units, the Sheriff's Department used to have 5 or 6 radar units. If they were just asked by Big River to come out, do they not have any units at all anymore?
They asked for some new ones. I don't know how old their units were. And I know used to, the state police didn't supply radar units. The Sheriff's Department actually supplied them to the state police, who use them quite frequently. But the state police are only working hours. I don't know if that has changed or not. We have them allotted for, I think it's 9 troopers. I don't think we put that in several years.
I do remember at one time providing them to the state.
And I think that may be what they have, is they may be supplying to the state for them to operate radar. The sheriff wants to put some out there for his guys. So he said, I'm not interested in writing tickets. He said, I just want to slow people down. And maybe use those probable cause to check for other things.
Do you not think just a patrol car alone would slow people down?
Some it will.
I would think that it would, disintegrate, they would know that they didn't have a radar in city car.
Well, slow down.
Most,
Me too. That's the name on my road usually.
to be perfectly honest with you, most people don't think that we should get money to radar. Because most of them don't. So they think, well, hey, it's just a deputy.
Well,
And
and
also
also,
have calibrated eyes.
but in that same stood, they could actually still perform a traffic stop and just tell someone to slow down, and not ever even mention the fact that they don't have a radar, correct? Because they're not writing a ticket, you know what I mean, like if they're just using it to slow down.
You want me to put my copy out of them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
we were explained to us like this, stopping without a radar, you better have other probable cause. Because if they decide to take you to court, you are going to lose. And they will probably then sue you if there's hardly nothing really on the phone.
It's a shame.
It's called improper arrest. Because when you flip on the blue lights, you have detained them whether you take them to jail or not.
Any other questions or comments for Justice Ash? Thank you, Justice Ash. Justice Cullom.
We had kind of an emergency meeting on July 15th, because we're about to lose our physical property insurance, and we basically decided to go ahead and pay the premium for 6 months, get us up until January. That time was just a meeting, but in addition, this Friday, we're gonna have a meeting and we're gonna interview the first of the people that we hope we can choose from to represent us from an insurance committee standpoint. I have Farm Bureau here. I have a girl that's out on her own that used to be with Premium Health. And today I got a big plus, a Mark Miller.
Oh, yeah.
In Fairview, was very, very knowledgeable and very nice today. And so Friday we'll pick up where we'll be ready for our insurance renewals in November, December.
Any questions or comments for Justice Cullom? Justice Jackson.
Judge, okay, on July the 18th, we had an energy and property meeting. And so this was to bring us up to speed on the courthouse. Furniture is being moved into the courthouse. There are a couple of last minute change orders that are going to require a little bit of money. So I'd ask the committee if we to please to go ahead and appropriate the $30,000 that was still left in the contingency budget, and then also an additional $20,000 that was left in the undesignated. These things would cover a couple of change orders. The C&I installed some heat tape on the main water line. We also needed a change order for pumps for the condensation from the air conditioning. We have also rehired Mr. Brownlee in order to kind of, he is helping us with the process of finishing up. Get the construction people to go ahead and finish, and helping Aaron to make sure that we get exactly done what we need to get done. I think that's a good move. So you'll see an ordinance tonight for an appropriation of $50,000. And we also talked about the farmland. The leveling has begun. The only rain we've had, of course, slowed it down just a little bit. And then there was also an so we did not have a quorum, so everything that you see tonight coming from that meeting is coming without recommendation. So we tried to only move along the things that we felt like were really kind of more of an emergency and needed to be handled this month to the full court. The monthly expenses, of course, looked great. The fuel budget is running out of line, but that's only to be expected with fuel prices. There's a grant for the juvenile officers. There's also a security grant that Justice Ash talked about from Wayne Reynolds in the amount of $11,520. Let's see, the sheriff. So we did discuss the sheriff's request, but there wasn't anything tonight. There was discussion in the finance committee meeting from Norris about recabling the jail. So he feels like that's more of a priority than maybe what was first we thought it was. So I'm thinking that maybe fire and police will have another meeting and maybe discuss between the small equipment and revisit maybe the cabling issue and see which one may be the priority before the end of the year.
Was there a dollar amount, associated with the cabling issue?
I think, but, maybe 77,000.
It ranged from 70,000 to 95,000. Were the bids that we had, I think, Ritter, I think, came in at 77,000. Most everyone saying that.
So right now, when Norris spoke, we talked about the fact that there's still, the jail and everything out there is still operating on Cat 5. So it's running slow, and anytime there's and some of the newer equipment really can't work the way that it's supposed to because of, because the cabling is old. And I understand that, so it's well over, how old do you think it is?
I think the flag on the wall says 99.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Fine.
So,
I think they switched over in 99, 2000 to Cat 6.
I have not seen the cabling request, but there's probably some opportunity, even for some fiber optics out there that would really increase the speed. So, anyway, like I said, maybe police and fire will talk about that again, and we'll see an additional recommendation. There's a law enforcement stipend. Sheriff Cook submitted a roster for 34 officers that were eligible for the $5,000. The AAC advised us to go ahead and appropriate that money because once we receive the money, we have a certain allotted amount of time to actually give them the money. So we want to make sure that the money's still there. The cash in lieu of benefits, I'm sure we'll hear more about it from Jacob later on. So he's shaking his head a little bit, but we will
There's
be.
an update, but it's just not good.
We'll be extending that ordinance again this month. So, of course, what Dr. Cullom talked about, we will see the builder's risk policy has expired, so we needed to pick up insurance. What we did learn by the finance committee meeting was that the AAC is self-insured for $250,000, and then the rest of it they pick up the extra insurance with they purchase it with a different company.
The secondary insurance.
Kind of
We
like,
had in the past.
I wonder if it's Gerber.
well, that's yes. So it's a very similar circumstance. However, 72 of the 75 counties do this. I still feel like this is probably the best thing we could have done given the short notice, but it is certainly something to kind of look at for the upcoming year.
Yeah.
So the ARP committee had already appropriated $15,000 to start the process of renovating the health units. We need to appropriate a little bit more money for the bills that have come in. So there's a $35,000 ordinance from the ARP to appropriate more money to that project. We need to adopt an administration policy to accept federal grants. So that's in there tonight. And then, of course, the Energy and Property recommended an appropriation of $50,000 for the upcoming change orders that are going to come. That I do want to make note that $50,000 is not part of the move back budget. So we still have all of that money left.
Time of loose ends.
Yeah, just time at the loose end. So we still have plenty of money undesignated and plenty of money to move back in. And so the project's still going good as far as money's concerned.
Any questions for Justice Jackson? Thank you, Justice Jackson. We'll move on with our legislative portion of tonight's agenda. Mr. Curry, would you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number O-2022-40. An ordinance adopting a federal grant award administration policy for Mississippi County, Arkansas. Whereas Mississippi County from time to time applies for and receives funding from federal grant awards, including having recently received the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, and whereas the Quorum Court of Mississippi County has found and determined that it is necessary and desirable to adopt a federal grant administration policy to ensure compliance with statutory and regulatory requirements by recipients of federal funding. And whereas all parts of this ordinance and policy shall be in full force and effect upon its passage and approval by the county judge, And whereas all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict of this ordinance are hereby repealed. And whereas if any provision of this ordinance or the application thereof to any person, a circumstance is held to be invalid, then such invalidity shall not affect other provisions or applications of this ordinance, which can be given effect without the invalid provisions of application thereof. And to this end, the provisions of this ordinance are declared to be severable. Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that Article 1, that the Mississippi County Federal Grant Award Administration Policy, a copy of which is attached hereto, is hereby approved and adopted as the policy of the county for the administration of federal grant awards. Article 2, that a copy of the Mississippi County Federal Grant Award Administration Policy shall be filed in the office of the County Court Clerk of Mississippi County, Arkansas. Article 3, Emergency Clause. It is hereby ascertained and declared that there is an immediate need to adopt a federal grant award administration policy to ensure Mississippi County's fiscal compliance with statutory and regulatory requirements for recipients of federal grant funds and the proper administration of the federal funds recently received through the coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds. It is therefore declared that an emergency exists, and this ordinance being necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, and safety shall be in full force and take effect immediately from and after it is passed.
Make a motion that we read it by title only for a second time.
Second.
Ordinance.
Before we, Jacob,
Yes, sir.
you got anything to add to this? We got the emergency clause.
Just that the statute would cover applies and ask for, we can pass that around right there.
I don't believe that it's necessary since the emergency clause is, adopted inside this ordinance with a 3 reading.
No, actually, it honestly is, Judge. We have to have the adoption of the emergency clause and still read it 3 times. In fact, in order to expend the 3 suspensions, you have to have the emergency clause attached to it. So we honestly do need to adopt the emergency clause and suspend the rules and read it by the 2 additional readings. And with the motion made and seconded, we'd need a roll call to do that. But I believe that we still have to do that.
And I don't mind reading it 3 times at all.
I was in the meeting last week, every one of them had to be read for 3
Now,
times.
you're supposed to have the emergency clause with it in order to suspend the rules and advance it to the 2nd and 3rd readings by title only.
This came from
Probably come up in somebody else's audit, so.
I don't mind reading it.
I mean, that was what the,
Do what?
Last year, when they did the federal
You'll
audit,
read it? You'll.
well, I mean,
it
the
was
fact that it's
actually
included within the
write-ups
measure,
that
I think that
Okay.
provides.
I apologize. Okay, so, did you reach out to Amy and see if it is?
Mr. Henry, would you hand
actually
that
got
to
it.
I just was curious who wrote the actual policy that we were voting on. Well, I'm not used to it already.
Try to do stuff.
policy of Mississippi County, Arkansas.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Screwed, call the roll.
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Cullom,
Yes.
Justice Freeman, I'm sorry. Justice Byrd, I skipped you, didn't I? Justice Byrd,
Yeah.
Justice Helpler,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Lewis,
Yes.
Justice Mingat.
Yes.
Whereas certain functions of the county government are in need of funding, and whereas the Mississippi County HRA accounts were discontinued effective January 21st, 2022. Excuse me. And whereas employees that were enrolled in these accounts have been paid extra compensation through payroll for the months of February, March, April, May, June, and July 2022. This will now be extended through August, and whereas this extra compensation will be reported and taxed as regular compensation, and whereas Consolidated Admin Services has been retained to draft the plan documents necessary to cease these payments, and shall complete these documents upon resolution of a question of law surrounding the appropriateness of this sort of plan. And whereas this appropriation has been reviewed and forwarded by the Finance Committee, now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications attached herein as Exhibit A are hereby made for the fiscal year of 2022 budget. Number two, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. 3, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion?
I'll read the most recent email I got from CAS. This is actually directed towards Kelly, but it says, based on our call today, Kelly had a conversation with CAS because she had a question about the form. My understanding is that you want us to create a document for cash in lieu of benefits program. Based on my research and current understanding of the law, I don't think it's permissible. Please ask your legal counsel to forward me his legal reasoning and authority that would permit this benefit to be paid through accounts payable. So we're back. My legal reasoning and authority is that we were told we had to get off of it. I don't know. So it's literally back to square one, and otherwise, I guess, yeah, it's saying we need to go back on HRA. The whole reason we were in this point is because Eddie Jones told us it wasn't permissible. Now they're asking us how cash loan benefits will be permissible, and I don't know the answer to that. That's the reason I had to contract it out.
I thought we had found another county that does something similar.
Pulaski County does.
So how are they doing it?
I asked their attorney said they got it from CAS.
So what does that mean?
That means that something's not adding up. Like, if CAS did it for Pulaski, I don't understand why they can't do it for us, unless it's discriminatory in that we're using it for certain members. That's the only thing I can think of. But
So they don't do it, are you saying they do something different?
they do an opt-out of the premium, as I thought we went to do. But I don't know the specifics.
Oh, but they're offering it to everyone.
Yes. Because it has to be offered in a non-discriminatory manner.
Okay, so that would be the different thing, is because this is what we're doing is just for the ones that are on Medicare, correct?
Yes, opt out of anybody in the cafeteria plan that we have to do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about that a couple of times in the video. So basically what they're doing is they're saying you can opt out of your medical, and if you opt out of it, then we just give you the money instead of the coverage, correct?
But it's taxed, but it's taxable.
Through payroll, yes, So it's still a non-taxable benefit.
Okay, but if we did something like that, let's say, because we have discussed at some point, you know, partially having the employee pay partial. If we went and did something like that, then could we do a cafeteria plan where they would get a tax break for having to pay their own?
I believe that's the point of section 125 is that you do the
Yeah.
cafeteria plan.
Or allow them to enter a program in which they put so much money in to pay deductibles, for
Like an
prescription
HSA,
drug.
like an
Yes.
HSA.
Could we do the same thing?
What
Could
would
we
y'all-
do that and allow the people on Medicare to be paid into that, and they use it to pay it?
What would be the meaningful difference between HSA and HRA?
Okay, I had an HSA at one time.
Right. Same
And
person.
I elected to put into, I could elect to take so much per paycheck and put it toward my future medical bills.
Correct.
I could put up to $2,500. I did that. They gave me a MasterCard. Every time I went to the pharmacy, swiped the MasterCard. If I went to the hospital and I had $1,000 deductible, swiped the MasterCard. I was paying it, but I was also getting a tax break because that money was not taxable.
Right.
But it was included in your
But it's
pay.
included in my
Yeah,
pay,
it's pre-tax.
but it never appears on your W-2 form.
Right, right. And that's what they're doing in Pulaski County.
Just off the limited documents I could find, yes, that's what I understand we're doing.
Okay.
A basic section 125 plan should be that.
So should we,
I'm gonna have to talk to Eddie again.
yeah, so in your opinion, so we've got this ordinance again. So should we think about amending the ordinance to cover it through the end of the year so that we can look into?
I've asked everybody to think of, I'm gonna go back to some names Eddie Jones gave me and try to go through them. But if I would find somebody like one of the lines upon snag, then I'll look at it so by next month.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, I think it's wise to finally call Uncle and call in help when you need help. That's appreciated.
I've tried for about 2 or 3 months.
Right.
But
And having someone that, you may have to have not only the legal aspect of it, but the accounting side of it as
Oh,
well.
yeah, no, that's
So you're gonna
way
have to have
beyond
someone that's a legal tax accountant that can potentially give you that type of information.
I know one of those.
That might be somewhere the direction to look at.
Well, I was thinking about the right legislature in its turn, because
Right, and so, and then we
Nobody
start
knows.
asking about,
Game,
yeah. Okay.
gameplay, and the premium payer takes a beat, the little guy that's trying to reach out to the beat, nobody knows how to play the game.
Still saves.
That's true, it's just that they're gonna, and Kelly's gonna have to know where she does W-2s at the end of the year and whether or not it's gonna be taxable income.
Well, this way, and I guess, by going into it now, we'll have it all worked out, hopefully.
Right.
First year.
That's true.
so let's see.
Right.
Budget process.
And we'll certainly ask, maybe potentially our new agent, our new agent.
Everybody that comes in, yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Curry, would you call the roll, please?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Byrd,
Yes.
Justice Cullom.
Yes.
Justice Hubler,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Lewis,
Yes.
Justice Mangat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We'll move on to our next appropriation ordinance. It deals with change orders at the liable courthouse construction project.
Appropriation ordinance number O 2022-42. An appropriation ordinance authorizing payments by Mississippi County for fees associated with change orders for the completion of the Blythe Courthouse construction project. Whereas the Blythe Courthouse construction project is near completion, but while completing the final task, the county saw need for a few minor change orders. And whereas the county shall appropriate $50,000 to cover these change orders, $30,000 coming from the contingency budget and $20,000 coming from the undesignated funds budget. And whereas the appropriation has been approved by the Energy and Property Committee and is now submitted to the full Quorum Court for approval, Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the fiscal 2022 budget. Slot or account number 4800.0108.400. Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the fiscal year 2022 budget. Slot or account number 3524.0503.2002 for small equipment in the amount of $11,520. Number two, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. Number three, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Is there discussion? Ms. Curry?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Burge,
Yes.
Justice Cullom,
Yes.
Justice Hopewell,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Lewis,
Yes.
Justice Lingat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
That was, District Court.
District Court, yeah. Now we're going to, we'll move on to our next appropriation ordinance. Ms. Curry, would you read the?
Appropriation ordinance number 2022-44. An appropriation ordinance authorizing the purchase of liability insurance coverage for the Blythe Courthouse. Whereas the insurance policy covering contractor builder liability for the construction at the Blythe Courthouse has expired, and whereas the county now must reassume coverage of the Blythe Courthouse, and whereas the Association of Arkansas Counties Risk Management Fund is binding coverage for liability on the Blythe Courthouse complex, and whereas the total cost of this coverage, including the physical plant and contents, totals $40,520.55. Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the fiscal year 2022 budget. Slot or account number 1000.0111.3052 for fire and EC insurance in the amount of $40,520.55. Number two, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed, are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. Number three, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion? Ms. Curry, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Burge,
Yes.
Justice Cullom,
Yes.
Justice Hempler,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Lewis,
Yes.
Justice Lingat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We'll move on to the next appropriation ordinance. Ms. Curry?
appropriation ordinance number O 2022-45. An ordinance authorizing appropriations to pay juvenile officer hazardous duty and retention bonds. Whereas certain functions of the government of Mississippi County, Arkansas are in need of funding, including an appropriation that will compensate juvenile officers for an earned bonus based upon their hazardous duty, and to ensure that the officers remain employed within the county. Whereas the Honorable Mary Broadway applied for and received a grant from the Administrative Office of the Courts, which awarded a one-time payout of $5,000 in the form of a bonus for individual juvenile officers. And whereas the county has received funds from the state of Arkansas, which covered the salary portion of the grant. However, the county must therefore contribute to the awardees' retirement, Social Security, and Medicare taxes. And whereas this appropriation has been reviewed by the Finance Committee, who forwarded this action to the full Quorum Court. Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriation modifications are hereby made for the fiscal year 2022 budget. Slot or account number 1000.0415.1001 for salaries in the amount of $30,000. Account number 1000.0415.1006 for Social Security in the amount of $2,295. Account number 1000.0415.1007 for retirement in the amount of $4,596 for a total of $36,891. Number 2, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed, are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. Number 3, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion? Ms. Brewer, would you call the roll?
Justice Ash.
Yes.
Justice Byrd.
Yes.
Justice Cullom.
Yes.
Justice Shuffler.
Yes.
Justice Jackson.
Yes.
Justice Lewis.
Yes.
Justice Langette.
Yes.
Justice McConaughey.
Yes.
Justice McDonald.
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We'll move on to our next appropriation ordinance, Mr. Curry.
Appropriation ordinance number O 2022-46. An appropriation ordinance amending ordinance number O 2021-35, which adopted the budget for the calendar year 2022 to amend the Sheriff's Department budget for the law enforcement stipend. Whereas Act 224 of 2022 appropriates $50,000. $50 million, I didn't know if it was $50 million for law enforcement stipend grants in the state of Arkansas and set forth the rules and regulations for administering and distributing the funds by the county. And whereas a one-time stipend of $5,000 will be awarded to full-time certified enforcement officers to include deputy sheriffs, and whereas Mississippi County has received the funds to disperse the law enforcement 1000.0400.1001 for salaries in the amount of $170,000. Account number 1000.0400.1006 for Social Security in the amount of $13,005 for a grand total of $183,005. Account number 1000.0400.1007 for retirement in the amount of $26,444. Account number 10007010 for state grants in the amount of $183,005. Number 2, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. Number 3, this ordinance and appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Judge, we haven't received these funds yet, but I think the state did request, Justice Jackson, that we go ahead and make this appropriation so that when they are received, we only have a certain amount of time.
Right, I think it's the first, first payroll after we receive them. So if it doesn't fall just right, we wouldn't have time to appropriate it, so we should go ahead and appropriate.
I just didn't want the deputies to see in the paper that we've appropriated the money and expect it tomorrow, but as soon as it comes in, it will be appropriated.
Good deal. Any further discussion? Ms. Curry?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Byrd,
Yes.
Justice Cullom,
Yes.
Justice Hepler,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Lewis,
Yes.
Justice Mingett,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We move on to our last appropriation ordinance involving revival architecture and our 2 county health units.
Appropriation ordinance number 2022-47. An appropriation ordinance authorizing the payment of outstanding invoices issued by Revival Architecture. Whereas the county government entered into a contractual agreement for the renovation of 2 county health units with Revival Architecture, and whereas the county has already appropriated $15,000 to this end, but now must appropriate additional funds in order to compensate Revival Architecture for their services. And whereas the total cost of the outstanding invoices is $35,000. Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that 1, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the fiscal year 2022 budget. Slot or account number 1006.300.4006 for construction in progress in the amount of $35,000. Number 2, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. Number 3, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Yes, I just want to mention one thing. So originally the ARP committee voted to allot so much money to the renovation of both to both health units. And so this money right now that we're appropriating little by little is actually getting the ball going, or getting the ball rolling. Aaron has, I think he's all, we selected an architect. He knows our budget. he has talked with Chris at the health units, he's coming up with some plans, then that will go out to bid, is that correct?
Yes.
And then once, the bid has been given to a construction company, then we will move to what we see now, like with the courthouse, you'll have like a budget, like we did with the courthouse, and that's how that process will go. Right now, we're still just in the beginning phases of that, so we're still using the ARP money, but we just haven't got to that point yet.
So I did tell Michael that we did not have the money on the sheriff's stipend as of today when we left, but I am getting emails where, some counties are getting it deposited into their banks, and I did share that with Kelly, so they were, they're prepared that if we do get it, they may do it on this week's payroll. If I get there tomorrow and we have it, so I just wanted to make that comment, just in case we do get it tomorrow. But we may not, I don't know, some counties are getting it and some are not, so.
Any other discussion? Ms. Curry, would you call the roll, please?
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Byrd?
Yes.
Justice Cullom?
Yes.
Justice Boone? Oh, I'm sorry, Justice
Here.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Lewis?
Yes.
Justice McGath?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice Moore?
Yes.
We'll move on to new business.
Judge, I would like to mention that, Osceola Mayor Sally Wilson has reached out to me twice in the last 2 days with, project requests for infrastructure, in the city of Osceola and possible expansion. I'll be bringing those to, future committee meetings for discussion, but I did want to acknowledge that she is reaching out to the county and requesting help on infrastructure.
Would you propose that we go ahead and put, and designate a committee or to forward it to?
One of them involves, water system, the other involves sewer system, and I think she is, maybe attempting to talk about the ARP monies, but we could start with that committee and see if it would fit there, and how how that committee feels and if they care to forward it forward or not.
Justice Jackson, would you entertain that idea?
Sure, yes, we need to have an ARP committee meeting, so it'll probably, I'm thinking probably, if not next week, the week after next.
Ms. George, would you make a note of that and make the appropriate phone call? Any other new business?
Would you like to bring the court up to date on the hospital situation?
Yes, I received a phone call from Chris Raymer, last, confident that everything was done. That was on a Wednesday, and then on a Friday, I got a phone call from a physician in Osceola that was not aware of this, so I went to the hospital at Blyville and spoke with Mr. Raymer, and also the chairman of the board, Mr. Logan, and directed them to open the Osceola Hospital admissions back up until they could do their due diligence in informing the public. And I believe that task was carried out. It is my understanding, and I have not spoken back with Mr. Logan or Mr. Raymer, but I believe that process has already begun, and they are in the midst of contracting with a firm that would get us more nurses so that we can restore both hospitals back to their state.
Judge, KIT did cover that story, I read it this morning, actually, that they had moved patients from Osceola to Blyville, so I don't know if that was before, or if they were covering the story of what had happened before they moved them back, but there was some notification of the public, because I read it this morning on their website.
I have not read that.
Well, there's a shortage in all areas, so, I mean, it's a real problem right now. Certainly, we don't wanna risk anybody's health, but I don't think I don't think there's any, hopefully they'll get a plan and get it back open.
The important thing for us to understand is two hospitals under Osceola has critical access designation, which means they're reimbursed of third-party payers cost plus. That allows a certain amount of money to be deferred from management positions at Live on Osceola. In talking to the Arkansas Hospital Association president today, a hospital can maintain critical access designation and go on inpatient diversion for a short period of time as long as the emergency department is open. That's important for workers' comp
So it was,
industry recruitment.
but the emergency room is open, right?
Yeah, emergency room is open. That was important that everybody understand that
Right.
and interdependent.
Any other questions or discussion on that issue?
I had something, Judge. I had come over here the other night, I think it was like last week, just to see how they did the bird handle situation, but a couple of things I noticed, on here was the steps when you're coming up, they're giving way. I actually took pictures of it. The bottom two steps, they're actually shifted down, so maybe we need somebody to come out and look at those. I know it looked like they had filled them or they had put new ones, but they're back, they fell. So there's a gap between the steps, the first steps. Also, as I was walking around, I noticed the landscaping. Maybe we can get them to come in because, it just looks dead. There's so many dead bushes in there. They need to clean it. I mean, they've cleaned it up to where, I mean, maybe they can put mulch around or something, but the landscaping really needs some attention.
And you're talking about which courthouse?
Here, if you just walk here. I mean, it's still light out there. If you want to just look at the front entrance off of Hale, the landscaping, and then you can see the steps on that end as well. You'll notice the steps as well. But yeah, the landscaping really needs some attention over here. It's dead, and they've got the edging is missing or rotted or whatever. But
Just Megan, would you suggest a possibility of a meeting with the committee that oversees the construction?
Energy and property.
Pardon me?
Energy and Property Committee.
Energy and Property, that's correct. Justice Jackson, do you not chair that committee?
You're not hear that. No, I'm just saying, yeah. Well, if you remember correctly, we did discuss in the ARP committee meeting, one of the first ones, that we wanted to designate some additional money to the Osceola courthouse. So,
How are undesignated funds in construction?
well, they're still, well, I would say safely $175,000 left, in undesignated funds that.
But would we not fulfill something like what Justice Magnus
I don't
talked?
know if that's something maybe the landscaper, like we have a contract with the landscapers, maybe talk to them first. I was thinking, but I don't know how all that works over here.
Yes,
Who's the landscaper?
I don't know, do we have a contract?
Or I don't know if it's a city.
We also.
No.
Don't cut the trees.
Justice Jackson, should we convene that committee to look at this?
Yes, we can certainly do that.
Ms. George, would you make a note of that, make a phone call?
But, and I have one more thing while we are discussing the, Osceola courthouse. I'm not sure if you guys saw it on social media, but it'll also be in the newspaper that the Osceola Copper Dome won, the Copper Development Association's 2022 North American Copper in Architecture Award. So, while it has had some controversy around it, it has certainly been noticed, and it is doing its job. I don't know that you see many people do a project like that anymore because of the expense, and I think it's something to be proud of, and it's gotten some recognition. And I think
My telephone's good.
yeah, so, at least, these people, yeah, so, fantastic, now we're all on the same page, it's real comforting, so. Yeah.
Any other new business? Old business? We'll move on to announcement. I would like to make it public here that that Mr. Cliff Chitwood has been or will be the recipient of the Maria Haley Lifetime Leadership for Economic Development Award. He will be in Little Rock with AEDC the end of this month, and he will receive that award along with Governor Hutchinson and Kirkley Thomas with the electric cooperatives. Neil, do you know this Kirkley Thomas?
I'm not familiar with that.
Anyway, I think that is a really big deal, and we're all proud of that. I would like to also bring up that I've got some information here that's presented by Energy that is giving an award for the coolest thing made in Arkansas, and Nucor is in the runnings for that. So I'll get each of y'all, I'll forward you a copy of this. There's a way to vote, and we certainly want to vote on our county industries to make sure that we help in getting them to receive this award or win the award. We're also moving forward with the Greeny-Kenmore Highway that has been delayed for various reasons, including COVID, and so we're underway making the final plans on that, which should take place early this fall. We also have a meeting tomorrow with CJRW, which is the first firm that's coming to the county with we asked for some more information. They are a public relations and advertising firm, so we'll be meeting with them tomorrow to see if it's possible that they partner with the county and obtain some objectives that we all want to see happen. So that will happen tomorrow, but we have a lot of things going on. It's a very exciting time in Mississippi County government, and I'll keep you posted. But we've got a lot of changing events. Anybody else have any announcements?
Planning and development at 1:30 tomorrow?
Planning and development at 1:30 at the annex.
Yes, sir.
And that, the subject on that's gonna be?
Primary subject is that Atlas project that we tabled because it had grown on us,
Right.
and it's kind of got solidified.
Good deal.
It's a very solid project that we're really hoping to win.
That's another really good thing, exciting thing about Mississippi County. You know, they brought us some information and decided they wanted to be bigger. So, that's a